Hello, I'm Robert, and you're welcome here in my busy little shop. On today's episode of What's in My Workbench, we're reloading. I have another knife sheath here. I've done a couple of knife sheaths, but this one here is a knife that was made by a local artisan in Damascus, and just a beautiful made knife. It came with a sheath, but it was really just a utility sheath, just a piece of leather wrapped around it. So, not long ago, I did a video, at least I think it's already out, because I change the order sometimes when they come out. But I used snapping turtle leather on it, and what I had used on it would look more like these parts here. It was the front part called shoulders of that snapping turtle. Well, the one we're going to be doing today is going to be made with this one here. This is in royal blue. It is snapping turtle tail leather. It's really got this cool detail on it. I think that that'll make just a beautiful sheath here. So what I'm going to be doing today is making a sheath to go with this one here. And if you were wondering, the handle's got some royal blue in it as well. I think it's in what they call some stabilized wood. And I'm thinking it's going to be something similar to this. So we'll get over here on the workbench and get started. And just a really quick, this leather is from Snapping Turtle Leather Company. And they sent me a couple of different pieces to try some different projects on. This is just the first one that I've done that's got the tail section on it, but I just think it's totally cool. So I'll be able to complete the sheath with this part of it here, and I'll still have these two areas here. So I need to think about what I want to do with that. You could make a sheath and have that in the middle of it. I have a video, like I said, I alluded to another one. I'm not sure if it's out yet or not. Just depends on when I get it edited and out. But I could use this on the face of it. I could also do a panel on, say, a wallet with it. So that's a way to utilize a lot of this leather and get several projects out of it. You could make keychains out of it. There's lots of different things. But today, nice sheath. I appreciate you being here. Let's go over on the workbench and get started. So let's take a look here. It does have a unique shape to it here. And but I think we're going to ignore that when it comes to designing the shape of it. This is the sheath that it came with. So, you know, it's serviceable, but it's such a beautiful knife, and I've got this leather here, so I thought I would change it up a bit. And so it's going to go something like that. It's hard to tell, but this is royal blue, so I have to figure out how I'm going to utilize this. I think I'm going to ignore the shape of that other sheath, and I'm going to make a sheath that comes out here to a point. Yeah, so right there's the edge of the knife. I think I can make that work. So the first thing to do is I need to come up with a pattern, and I think to come up with a pattern, I need to establish the leather that I'm going to be working with, because I'm going to do this as an inlay. So I'm just going to come over here and straighten this out and bring it all the way out to the top, and this side as well. There's still a lot of leather here left to work with. Like I was talking about, I could make a nice sheath with that and have that on there as well. That would be cool. I'd laminate either one of these to a piece of veg tan leather, but that would make a cool sheath as well. But I'm thinking maybe a wallet, a minimalist wallet, maybe. Something that would look like that. That would be a pretty cool wallet. So let me set these back over here. And now that I have this identified, I'm thinking, there's the edge of the blade. I'm thinking that I will cover up about 1/2 of an inch of this outside piece here. And then when I get about here, then I'll come straight up. And I think I'll skive this top edge and roll it down so that you will see basically that. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. So the first thing I need to do probably is to skive this top edge. And this, it's really thick right here. Let's see how thick that is. That is 14 ounces, but right behind it, sorry, that's more than 14 ounces, 18 ounces. And right behind it is 6. So I'm thinking that I will cut this off and I'll laminate it over a piece of vegetan like that once I have it skived down. And it will be inserted like that. I'm not going to bury, so to speak. I'm not going to bury the knife handle in there. I'm going to come down just as this one is, like that. And then I need to come up with a strap to retain that knife in there. And I think you heard me say it before, I'm not a fan of this type of a strap, but we'll come up with something. I may end up just out of ease doing the same type of thing. If I do, I'd probably come across this direction. And I don't know, maybe I can use some of the turtle leather there so it doesn't stick out so much. I mean, I wouldn't do this color, but I would do black or such. Royal blue. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to laminate this on a piece of vegetan leather. So I'll skive this and then laminate that. Skive this, laminate that. There you go. I wonder, as I'm talking, can I utilize some of this to make that strap? Sorry, thinking out loud here. 5/8. We'll see. Okay, off to the races. Skive this back a bit. Make that a bit easier. I skived down to 3.5 ounces out here on this edge. It's got just a thick spot there. I was trying to even that out. So I toyed with putting contact adhesive here and then stitching this on here and then bringing this around and laminating it to this side of the hide. I just don't know how durable this is going to be up here, and this knife is going to be potentially rubbing on that as it goes in. I guess the other thing I could do is I could cover it with leather here as well, and that would give it a little bit of rigidity. I think I'm going to chicken out. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do like I did on the other one, laminate it on here, and then I'll create a pattern for this inlay area here, and then I will sew around that. Yeah, sorry, chickened out. I'll come back when I have these two laminated together. It's just gonna be as simple as putting contact adhesive on both of these, letting it air dry, and then hooking them together or laminating them together. So I'll come back when we've done that, and I'll go ahead and create my pattern for the window so we can continue from that point out. The contact adhesive is all set up. We're ready for the next phase. I think it's, I like how it looks attached there, get rid of some of the wrinkles up in here, and I just kind of pulled and stretched that to where it looked even. There was stretch here, not so much here in this tail section. And then I went ahead and adhered that scrap that I cut off. I thinned it out a little bit. We're going to utilize this, I think, for the retaining strap when we get to that part. But I'm going to set this over here out of the way. Once I had this completed, I needed to start figuring out the overall size of the sheath. And I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on here, but I'll give you the 30-second how I got to where I'm at on here. The first thing that I did was I created just a center line here from one end to the other. Then I took my ruler and I wanted to see the features on here that I wanted to retain. And it's all of these lumps or spots, scales. I know there's going to be a term for it. Somebody put it in the comments. I'm not sure what it is. So I wanted to make the sheath that was pointed, kind of to mimic this look of the tail. So I measured here and put that scribe line on here, like that. So that would give me my lines here for the outside of this sheath. I laid my knife here on it, like this, and started looking at how much leather I had. You know, obviously, if I continue that line all the way out there, I've got 5 inches of leather past the end of the knife, which I thought was unacceptable, too far. But I didn't want to shorten how much of this I was going to keep. I really think this is a neat feature on there, and I think the person that buys this knife is going to like the sheath as much as the knife. And yeah, this is all going to be for sale. So the next thing I did was looking at the width of it when I had that line out here. I know I'm wrapping up 30 seconds. It was going to be too wide, and so I decided when I looked at this that really about here, these aren't flared out anymore. They become parallel with the center scales here on the tail. I'll call it scales, I guess. All right, I know I'm rushing. I'm probably past 30 seconds. So I realigned those to get myself a more compact area here. And then I did trace out the knife so that I could work on the welt as well. Okay. After I had that done, I photocopied what I had going here, and I laminated it to some cardboard here and cut it out. And so this will be my outside shape for the sheath, and this will be the layer of leather, and it'll be enclosed at the top here, a 1/2 inch across the top, that will create the window for the tail. So now let's look at it on the tail. Like that. I think that'll look really cool. I have to figure out the appropriate color for this piece. I've got a blue over there. If I dye it a couple times, it'll get close to this royal blue. I could do black, I could do brown. Same question all over again. And up here, there's a 1/2 inch of leather that will be enclosing that. So what you'll see on the tail is going to be that. So I think that's going to be pretty good. A second photocopy of this, and then I cut out and created the pattern for the welt. Like that. To test it, I look at inserting the knife into it, and I believe here that I've got the necessary space to do so. Like that. Okay, that's how I came up with the pattern. I wanted to just kind of get that out of the way quickly there. I sometimes get caught up in that. Put in the comments if you want a little bit more information on that. I can make a separate video of making the pattern and spend a little bit more time on things I considered. I know it's probably 45 seconds. All right, so the next thing I need to do is I need to start cutting out my parts. I've got this done here. I'm not gonna go any further on this quite yet. I need to cut out these two parts here. This is gonna make up the back of the sheath. It will go in order like this. This is the back of the sheath. I haven't cut it to shape yet, obviously. This is the welt. And then this is the top piece. And between the top piece and the welt will be the leather with the scales on it. I decided, so when I make these sheaths, I seem to struggle a little bit, and maybe it's that way for others as well, of, you know, do I leave extra leather on and sand down to a line, or do I try to trim it? I find that if I cut it really precise to the size, that I end up getting myself in trouble where maybe I get it laminated off a little bit, where I could have corrected that if I was oversized a little bit. I don't want to be oversized a bunch. So what I'm going to do, this is going to make up the back of it, and then it's going to be turned back like this to create the belt loop here. So I trimmed this like a 1/4 inch big. This I can trim pretty easily once I get the welt on there. I can trim down to that. So I'm going to leave the back piece as it is, but I need to trace on where my welt's going to go so I know where I need to not apply contact adhesive, I guess is the best way to say it. So this is going to be the top, and it's actually, this white line comes off of there, but I thought I'd leave that much to trim these stacked up pieces together. So yeah, so here and here is where that's going to end. And I think the next thing I need to do really is just to create this inside area. I can over apply on the outside my contact adhesive. I'll put it here. I don't need to go all the way out to the edge in some of this wider area here. I will then be narrowing this down. I think I want about 1 3/4 of a strap up here, but I think it's easier to do that once I get all this laminated together. So I'm going to leave this in wild until I get this all created. So it's going to go like that. So next I've got this kind of rough looking piece of leather here. This is actually some Herman oak, and I'm going to use this for the welt. What I did to figure out the welt is I actually used my thickness gauge to see how thick the blade was, and it's just under 8 ounces. This is, let me double check it here. It could be less down in this area. It's 9. So I think that'll give me a nice welt to insert the blade against. And you could, you know, make an argument just to have the welt around here, but this tip, especially with the way this blade's shaped, it can be easy to come in here and clip threads. So I think we'll just make it this way. Let me find a place here that I want to utilize. Yep, I think that'll work. And this is the actual size. So I'm going to add, I know, here I go, adding. I'll show you how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to add very much. I could just cut on the outside of the line, I suppose. So I added it there. I'm just going to move this over here about 3/16, and then I'll come up this other side here. And then I'll push this to center between those and create my interior area here. And once again, this is the welt. Use the knife how it's comfortable for you to use the knife. I've been putting off cutting this. Can't put it off much longer now. So I need to now cut out this turtle leather here. And probably an ink pen will mark the best on the, at least on this raw leather. I can see it on that leather as well. It's got kind of a neat ridge around here. I'm move it up slightly here so that my 1/2 inch is beyond that. I'm staying slightly outside my line here. I'm going to leave this long until I get this other piece of leather cut here, and I'll trim them together. Three and 3/4. We'll use that. I don't know that it really matters that much. Okay. So in the past, I've done a lot of like, this piece is bigger, that piece is bigger, and there's been times it's really saved me, but I think at times it can be a little bit of a challenge because, you know, it is not the right size. Does that make sense? Well, I just about cut that end off there. I need to remember I've got my I've got the leather coming across here, that 1/2 inch. Where's my pattern at? That would have been bad, right? Yeah. Okay. So with that, I think I have all of my pieces cut out now. I've got the back body of it, the welt, star of the show, turtle. And the leather to make my window. I think that'll work. So what I'm going to do, let me work a little bit off camera here. I need to finish the inside of this, so I'll do a little bit of sanding, clean up these corners a little bit, and decide on what color I'm going to do. I'm leaning toward just black on there. So I like black because I think black will help this handle stand out, because that'll be the contrasting color behind it there. And I think it'll look really nice with there. There's a lot of really cool, nice colors going on in here with that. And this here is royal blue, picks up that royal blue there very nicely. The knife was made by a knife artisan, I think out of Pagosa, Colorado. I bought this as part of a fundraiser for a nonprofit organization. It was a silent auction. This turtle leather is chrome tan, and you can get that polished and filled, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to skive off some of the face of that here, and I just want to get rid of it on the outer, like say 1/4 inch. Well, that plane is low. The outer 1/4 inch here. So I'll just skive off here. I got started on this other side, trying to make sure I stay in the area it's going to be covered by that window, obviously. Quarter to 3/8. I just think it will make a cleaner edge, not to have some of that lumpiness there. And this turtle leather, being a chrome tan, doesn't finish the same as the veg tan as well. And I'll trim this top when I get everything all laminated together. So you can see I've been busy here. I went ahead, as I said, I finished off the inside of my window. I dyed it black here. I've put contact adhesive on here, and I've got contact adhesive on both sides of this piece. Well, as you can see, I have contact adhesive, I think, everywhere I need it. So I need to think about the assembly of this. The one thing I've been pondering, this is that scrap of turtle that I put on there, is where am I going to put a snap to secure the knife in its sheath. And if it wasn't for all this going on, I'd probably be out here kind of in the middle of this pattern with it. But I think what I'm going to do, I was looking at where it lines up on here. I don't want to get this attached yet. I can't think of a good reason not to do this step of it. Let's start with there, and I'll show you my thought process on this. So I want to get it, more than anything, I want to get the pattern centered here. And yeah, I'm just eyeballing the outside. It looks like I'm pretty well where I want to be there. think that looks pretty good. What do you think? Hey, speaking of what do you think? Words of encouragement are encouraged in the comment section. And I'm not thin-skinned. If you've got suggestions on how would you like to see me edit it. I had someone not long ago tell me my videos were getting long. I understand that. I have other people tell me, please don't skip steps. It's a balancing act there. I had another person say that they can just skip ahead, so make it the length that I want to. Those are all just statements. So I think the next thing I need to do, I need to get this cut here the size that I want that. And I said 1/2 inch. And looking for my pencil. Looks like 7/16, but that'll work. You can see some turtle exposed there. I can work with that. It's going to look something like that. So now if I take my strap here, and let's see, where do I want to put a snap? You know, over in here would be cool because it would keep from you know, being put on the turtle. But do I want it to go all the way across like that? Is there a good reason why not? I guess the reason why not is my stitching is going to be out in here in the middle of this field, and it's going to be in the middle of that stitching, and I could stitch up to it and around it. I'm just thinking out loud here. Hopefully it's not too annoying. I could put it here in this corner, around in a square corner. Not a fan of that. I could put it here, but now that I trim that skinny, that doesn't really fit there. I think I'm going to put it over here. And the reason why it's important right now is the snaps I have are a short post, not a long post. I can't go through all of these layers with that. So I need to actually install my snap at this time. I've got plenty of leather to get there. I guess I do. I'll probably be coming around where this leather up here curves. So it's going to be more like that. Yeah, I think I'm going to put it over here. Let me go get a snap for that. I've never put hardware on at this stage. Hopefully this isn't a mistake waiting to happen. And since the handle's got brass in it, I figured a brass would look best. Snap. And there. Okay. So it's going to be like that. Wayne, is this the way you would do it? I'm gonna bring it and crowd this inside here just a little bit. Leave myself room to sand and edge out here, because I do have to put a radius here too. Well, I'm running out of space. What about if I put it up here in this corner? don't see why I couldn't do that. That'll give me a little bit more space up here. That's where it's going. Won't have a lot of extra. All right, my concern here is if I ever have to repair it and put another snap on, that the space here is going to be, I guess I could drill through everything. That would remove the face and I could put a snap on from behind, and then I could do the same on the other. Let me tamp this down. I'm doing it to see if I got enough here. I'm not even sure that's enough. Yup, that's what I'm doing. Okay, reset. I'm worried about the post length. I'm not sure I'm going to have enough formed over this male part of the snap to hold it in there. So I went ahead and I evened out the thickness because it had kind of a lump there, and I didn't want that snap to sit funny on there. So once I get the snap in here, I'll put more contact adhesive there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to a line 24, and it still fits there, and the post length is longer, so that'll give me a better bond there. So let's make that hole. Just use a screwdriver to push the leather down, make sure I've got it snug there. Set that on there. Grab my Berry King snap setter. I've been using it a while now. I do love this snap setter. Got a nice flange inside there. Okay, I'll put some contact adhesive, but I'll be back here in just a couple minutes. While this contact adhesive dries over here, I'm going to go ahead and put the welt in. And the thing that I've ran into before when I create this is if my welt goes on and it's set skinnier, then now I'm having to trim this down. So I'm actually going to spread the welt slightly to make sure I don't run into that problem. I'm trying to learn from previous challenges. Let's call them challenges, not mistakes, challenges. So I'm going to come about a 1/16 outside of that line. Oh, there's another thing I did. I got looking at it, and I brought a little bit off of here and here to give myself a little bit more room inserting it, just down in this bottom part here. Before I tamp it down, let's look at it here. So the knife comes in like this. think that will work. Okay. Now, since I spread that a 1/16, can I go here next? I believe I can. Yeah, let's do that. I'm just centering it now on that welt. Let's get our first look at it in here. Well, it looks like that will work. Why did I do that? I want to stitch across here first. I realized that I didn't have that done, and it's made it a challenge in the past to stitch in there. So let me establish my stitch line here and at least stitch that part of it. So while I'm getting this stitched here, I'll talk about the process for a second under the keeping it real. One of the, I thought it was a cool comment that I got early on, that when I'm working on my projects and I'm talking through my thought process, that people find it interesting to see what I think about, maybe what I don't think about. Like as I'm sitting here looking at this, I'm thinking now that when I stitch this, these layers together up here, I'm going to have this corner here that's not stitched down. So I'm going to have to really think about that process, because I've got a snap that's going to be pulling on this joint here. So I'm going to have to really make sure I have a good bond there. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Now let me look at this. This may help solve my issue. No, it misses it. I was thinking if this one went through the welt, that I could pick that up and help tack that down. I'm going to have to think about that, aren't I? I'm not sure how much longer the long post ones are. I don't know if it would go through all that leather there or not. Okay. One more time, I'll freshen this contact adhesive up in a couple spots here, and we'll come back and assemble this. Let's go ahead and carry on. Spacing it side to side. Remember that I had a 1/16 of an inch or so. I'm looking at it all the way around to make sure that I've got welt showing and that my top edges are lined up. We are there. Make sure I got a good bond in that spot. I'm not trying to get crazy close. I just want to get rid of some of the sticky outside. Anyway, I think I missed saying it, but I had someone early on said they kind of liked my video because you kind of see my whole thought process, and that it was, you know, more like hanging out with a neighbor doing Leathercraft. And I took that as a compliment, you know. Fold back's going to be like that. going to end. I need 1/2 inch for a seam, 2 1/2 for the loop. So 3 inches. Three and a quarter, and I want one. Let's see how wide this handle is up here. 1 1/2. I'm gonna do 1 3/4 inches. There's the center of that. The center there. Two inches. 1 1/2 inches. Do 1 3/4 inches from this side. Here's the center. All right, so I've got the center. I want my strap to be 1 3/4 inches wide. So that's 7/4, so half of that's 7/8. So 7/8 to here and 7/8 to there. That makes sense. Seven eighths and 7/8. I'm not cutting quite yet. I'm using black, not worried too much about pencil lead showing that doesn't erase well. So I like to use an English point at times to get this done. I'm going to come up visually 1/4 inch. Line it up here on this line here. I'm at the apex of the English point. I should have trued up this edge here before I did it. I had to move over a hair to get that the same. And I was so focused on that, I didn't give the same relief off of there, so I'm gonna bring this back up here again, just a hair further. All right. Around these back corners. There's my stitch line. And I'm feeling to make sure I'm over welt on all of that. And I am. I'm going to go ahead and march all the way around here with my stitching irons. I got a little bit of a curve here, so I'll go to the too tine for that. And once I'm done with that, I will use my awl to chase these holes out like that. And then I'll be ready to go stitch this together. So I'll get that done and I'll come back and I'll figure out what I'm doing up here and we'll have that as part of the conversation. Right now, what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tack of 2 stitches there and there to hold that corner together there. So I think that's what I'm probably going to do. I'll be right back. So I've set up here. I'm working on my stitching. I think I already said, but I chased all those holes out with the stitching awl. You pay more attention when I put that needle through the angle there. By the time I get it all figured out, I'll be done here. And I just measured. I was curious how thick this turned out to be. It is about 27 ounces of leather. Measuring it with the tape measure, it looks pretty close to a 1/2 inch, maybe slightly less. It's possible that it would fit under the Cobra 26 sewing foot. And obviously, I think most people say if you can get it under the foot on the Cobra 26, it'll sew. I appreciate you taking time to be within the shop today. I'll get this done and be right back. All right, I finished up the stitching. I finished with 3.5 back stitches here. I want to make sure this corner is nice and tight since this snap is going to be pulling on it. And you know, the snap doesn't really create that much of an issue. But I also created 2 holes here just with a round awl. And I'll wrap around here, I don't know, maybe 3 times to make sure that this corner stays down. And I leaned it in at an angle quite a bit so that when I'm working here, I don't accidentally sand through threads on the back side. We're starting to get there. So I need to decide how much I take off of here. So let me think here. I'll go do a little bit of sanding. I'll be right back. Ron's number 4. I could probably run a number 6 on there, but I have to be careful with this snap up there. I may end up using a sander and creating a larger bevel around this sheath. So in looking at this, I think visually, I think I like the width of the strap, but I still think it's maybe a little bit large and it's impeding on this. There's another solution. I could do a bag punch here and bring that strap up so it comes in behind that finger guard. I think that's what I'm going to need to do. All right, here's what we're going to do first though. Let's, I don't think I want it tapered. I think I want it straight. So let me straighten this up. And let's do a round over on the end of this. And I think I want to come in a bit, don't I? So that there's like a loose flap out here to get a hold of. So probably somewhere around there. All right. I wonder if anybody else has ever put a snap-on backwards. I have. I recently picked that anvil up. I liked it because this is a little bit flat on that shape, and this is a little bit more round, so it keeps that snap from being flattened out some. This side is used on this one, and it marries right over the top of it there and holds it nice. This one's larger. For this side, you just, same tool, you just flip it over. And tell you what, I really like the snap set, or the Barry King set. I don't remember who it was. I appreciate whoever it was said I should try it. I think it was like $22 for that snap setter. I bought it from Barry. So I need to go through here. I may want to taper this down where I come through there. This is 1/2 inch. I can walk this one a little bit, I think. Probably better. Just nibble off a little bit here. And let me put a point on this to make it easier to thread through there. I think that'll work. There we go. Last thing I want to do is have those threads get caught here. Chances are good that you might catch it occasionally, but what I'm going to do is I'll take my hammer here and set those stitches down so that they're even. Pro Dye Black, a little wool dauber. Get this knife out of here. Okay, let's take a look at what we've got here. I keep trying the knife, make sure I like it. I think that works. So, I let the dye dry. I did an initial sanding with some 120 and 220 sandpaper here. And I actually took a little bit more off the tip, re-dyed that. Let's get a burnish on this and see where we're at. I find that a little bit of a burnish may show me if I've got any dips or wobbles in this edge that I need to address. The turtle leather has been, I think, easy to work with. You have some thickness variations that you may or may not want to address. I felt like I wanted to, so I had a consistent edge instead of having some of these features of the hide, you know, messing with this edge. We'll take a look and see what we look like here. I think it looks pretty good. You can see some difference in porosity here of the surface. And I think overall, I like what I see there. I think what I find works good for me is at this point, I'll go ahead and I'll put some, I like to use tan coat. It's a little thicker in body than the Resling, as a little bit of a filler sealer on this open grain on the edges. So I'm going to go around here and put that on there. The same with these edges. I went ahead and I put my maker's mark on here. I don't know if you can see that very well or not. Let me get tan coat here. Oh, good. Leaf blower. Oh, goodness. Like, leaf blower is pretty loud. I don't know if you pick it up a lot or not. Let me go close the garage door here real quick. Oh, it helps a little bit there. I'm just going to go ahead and put a coat on this as well. I'll probably finish off with Resling once I get everything sealed on here. Takes a pretty good amount to seal so I can slick the back of this raw side of the leather. Use my glass slicker here. Slicking of that. So I think what I'll do, I'm going to set this over here, let this dry thoroughly, and then I'll come back with some 400 grit sandpaper and I'll work on these edges a little bit and decide how much further I want to go with the sandpaper. I think it looks pretty good. I intend to put one more coat on these edges, but I have a pretty nice sheen there. That is just dye, water, denim, and I've got tan coat on here. But the leather turns out nice. I think that the snapping turtle leather is just spectacular. And there's my maker's mark on there. Have it all sewed together. And we are ready, I think, for, I guess, my last comments on here. Let me turn the camera around and let's talk a little bit about this. Well, I tell you what, I don't know what you think, but this leather is absolutely beautiful. The royal blue, it is dark, so it doesn't stand out from the black as much as maybe, obviously, a lighter color would, but it's just absolutely beautiful. The tail, I think, was a great choice for this sheath. I think the sheath turned out really nice. The leather was easy to work with. I don't know if anybody else has used it any other way, but I find that it's really pretty easy to manage. I laminate it to a piece of vegetable tan leather. You saw that in the video. And after that, it's really kind of like working with anything else. And do you have to do that? I don't know that you necessarily have to do that, but it is a chrome tan, so it doesn't have, it's not a rigid leather. And I think for a sheath, it's nice to have a rigid leather so that when you go to insert the blade, that you don't potentially, I guess, cut through that face there. So I think it's a beautiful sheath. I think it turned out really nice. First sheath I've ever made like this one here. And I have to think about it. I think it's the first sheath I've ever made that had a retaining strap other than the other one that I don't think you've seen that video yet. I think I've decided here as I'm working through here that I'm going to make this video first and the other one second. It has a strap that comes around the front with a snap on the front of it here, but I think this was a good choice for this style of sheath. I really want to thank Snapping Turtle Leather Company for sending me the leather, giving me an opportunity to try out an exotic leather here. And like I said at the beginning, the Snapping Turtle hides were just being thrown away before they, picked them up and started making them into leather. And I think it's fairly popular in the boot making world, but in the Leathercraft world, I don't think it is so much. The hide that this came out of, the tail section, has the two other parts on it. So I can't remember exactly how much of this hide is. I looked it up. They gave it to me, so I want to be clear about that. They gave it to me to try out, and I think it's like $45. So this is obviously the feature part on that hide, but the other two pieces, you could make, I think, a couple of wallets out of that. So if you had, I don't know, let's say you had $20 for the tail section and then you had $10 a piece for the others, I think that's pretty reasonable. I did a video not long ago on the difference between an import leather and Herman oak and, the pricing and all that. And I had someone say, well, if you're making a $40 item, then that cost is important. But if the belt you're selling for, say, $175, if it costs you $10 more, that's probably not the end of the world. And so I agree with that. And so if I had made this sheath without this tail section on here, I just made it out of just regular leather, can I sell this for $20 or $30 more because of that accent piece? I think the answer is yes. I have to figure out how much I'm going to post this to sell. I'll have it at my next artisan show, knife and sheath and everything. But maybe put in there your idea on what you think this handmade knife with a handmade sheath is worth. The knife's really pretty cool. I've drugged this on long enough. I appreciate you hanging out with me. Hopefully you made it here to the end. Could see this final reveal. I think it turned out really beautiful. I do appreciate you taking time to be through the shop. Please check and make sure that you're subscribed. But more importantly, I hope you have a great day.